Hey everybody, welcome back to The Beard and the Bald. I am Paul Shirey the Beard, joined by my compatriot the Bald, Christopher Bumbray.
I must break you.
Break him. I'm actually surprised how many break you, like not even references, but actually saying it, were in Creed 2.
Oh man.
Like they were like, we're going to hit those fucking nostalgia vibes right off the bat.
Oh, and it really did hit the nostalgia sweet spot. For those of you who don't read JoBlo.com, which you should be reading JoBlo.com, are we on the YouTube channel now?
I think we're going to go this week, so you may be listening to it on YouTube this week.
Anyway, for those of you not in the know, I finally did review Creed 2 last week. I got to see it last Monday, and I loved it just as much as you said I would, Paul. I had a blast with it. And I
honestly, I really hope that you would, because I loved it so much. And so much of it hinged on really just all the prior Rocky films, because it really ties them all together. It's absolutely like a part of the Rocky franchise. Like it may be called Creed 2, but it feels like just a complete continuation of the saga without missing a beat, and really nodding to everything that came before.
Well, just things in the background. I mean, one of the things that was cool that I pointed out to a couple friends when we were watching it is that Creed's corner man in it is Spider. That's the opponent that Rocky beats up in the church in the first Rocky, and who is pretty much homeless in Rocky Balboa. And then Rocky basically starts giving him free meals, and he works in the kitchen for Balboa at Adrian's. And then at the end of that movie, he was his corner man. He was helping him out in the corner, and he's the corner man. He's Creed's corner man in Creed 2.
And you just have to like really appreciate and love.
They don't say anything about it, and he doesn't have a scene, but he's just in the background, and he's just there.
And it's amazing. Like, there's just no other, and we're going to talk about like reboots and sequels later on in the show, but the fact that like
it's not a reboot.
The Creed films,
it's a sequel. It's a legit
sequel. But this is something that like acknowledges and everything that came before. But not only that, it just does it in such a linear fashion that it doesn't have to stand out. Just like you just said, like that, these small references. And it just shows like the passion that each new filmmaker and writer comes in to add to it. But I think a lot of it hinges on Stallone.
Well, the fact is, another thing about Creed, about both of those movies, I think that's really interesting. And I think it's rare that this could actually happen, is that potentially, definitely not me, but you could potentially come into Creed without having seen any of the Rocky movies and still really enjoy it. Because there's nothing there. You get more out of it, I think, if you've seen the other movies. And I imagine that, like, I feel like anybody who saw Creed immediately went and watched the other Rocky movies afterwards. Like, probably, I would assume something 90% of the people that probably saw that movie that hadn't seen the Rocky series probably binged them all on Netflix or something like that afterwards. But the thing why those two movies work, though, is that, yes, you have Rocky there, and I think he's kind of the heart of it, but it's also the fact that Creed is kind of a very interesting character, right? And the stuff that's going on with his wife too, they're interesting and they're likable, and I really like the relationships, and I love the relationship that Creed has with Rocky, and I like how it built on it in the last movie. How in the last movie there was a bit of distance between them, but then they kind of get won over a little bit, and then this one they're pretty much almost like father and son. But then there's the clash. And then it's her who has to kind of extend the olive branch between them. I thought that was really sweet, and that was really
and also Apollo's wife,
which I loved too, because you didn't see her and him together in the first movie, and I loved that they had a little moment together. I thought that was great.
And I love that they like reference each other. And like that she's like like when Creed goes to his mom's house in LA, and she's like,
that was Rocky.
She's like, yeah, but and then she's like, but Rocky doesn't approve. Like she can tell right away. Like she knows Rocky enough that she's like, he's not here because he doesn't approve of this fight. Like she knows.
It's bad news if Rocky doesn't approve.
Exactly. And she understands why Rocky wouldn't do it.
No, of course.
But even then, she still reaches out. She sends the picture of the baby, and says he still needs you, kind of thing. Like she actually reaches out to Rocky to say, "Hey, look, like I love my kid, who's not even really her kid."
No, I know. That's another thing that's kind of interesting about that, though, and just like a dynamic too that's so nice. It's that that's the thing that's really interesting about the Creed movies, is that everybody in it is so legitimately nice, though. That's the thing, and they're aspirational figures. it's funny. I was talking to somebody about Creed, you know, about the character, because some of the complaints, some of the really stupid reviews out there are complaining that Creed isn't necessarily a realistic look at what kind of a boxing champion would be. Like, no shit. You know, the thing is, neither is Rocky. these are aspirational characters. They're heroes. They're legit heroes. They're the people that you want to be. Even Stallone has given interviews and he said he's not Rocky, but he said he'd like to be Rocky. You know, Rocky's the version of himself that he would have loved to have been. You know, and that's and you know, and it's kind of like that with Creed. You know, these are aspirational figures. These are figures for you to look up to. You know, and to try to and they're like true blue. You know, I mean, they have flaws, but they're very likable characters, right? And you know, I love that. I mean, I love that whole movie, and I loved how. It's funny, you teased at it last week. You said that Tessa Thompson's character did something really cool at the end, and I love that. I love how
it was so cool
singing his fight song. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah, and it was like a smart. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was like a decision. It's like, wait a minute, she's a singer.
Yeah,
and she doesn't like. What better way to support her husband is to like, hey,
there's no better way.
Bring her into the mix. I thought that was so cool, and I actually love the track too. But you know, also going on the aspirational thing, so I went to the junket in Philly and I ran the Rocky Steps, which is all up on JoBlo.
I've been trying to follow the Creed shredding workout on Men's Health. I'm going to the gym tomorrow to bring it with me. I'm going to to do some of the stuff.
You want to know probably the biggest secret? It's like just eat nothing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Everybody gets like wrapped up in the workout, and it's like, wait a minute, let's take a look at the nutrition here.
Zero body fat.
One breast, one chicken breast. 3 eggs with literally nothing in them. Chomp on some celery. You could do that, and you're gonna lose weight. That's like the biggest thing. I'll just tell everybody right now. Here's the workout tip that nobody wants to tell you. They'll show you a workout that will slay you, but guess what? The nutrition is about 70% of the results.
Well, he has no fat. That's the thing. It's like his waist is so small, you know what I mean? But yeah.
I mean, he looks amazing in
Creed 2. Shredded.
Like, not only shredded, but just like built, like big. Like the scene I remember the scene when he was in the desert and he was hitting the sledgehammer into the ground, and I was like, God damn. And you know, I interviewed him in person, and you know, he looks fit and he looks good. I don't know. He was sitting down when I interviewed him, but but he almost looks monstrous. Like he looks superhero ready. Like he needs a superhero role. But anyways, I wanted to go back to your aspirational comments because I thought this was a cool story, and I shared it on my Instagram. But so I ran the Rocky Steps and I got to the top, and the day that I ran it actually was a Rocky run was going on, a Rocky marathon. Nice. So I'm seeing all these people with like medals. You know, you get a medal after a marathon and everything, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I hear the Rocky music, like they're playing all this Rocky music down the straightaway that takes you to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, where everybody was. And I was like, holy shit, there is a legit Rocky run. I had no idea, and I'm like running in it without a bib or anything because I'm just like some tourist here that's like running to Rocky Steps. And that music was like, and I show up, and they had like booths set up. They had the music playing. They had a finish line, and everybody's running up the steps to like finish. And I was like, wow, this is like, I had no fucking idea this was going down.
Did you do the thing where you were jumping up in the air like in slow motion?
Well, I can't jump in slow motion. I haven't mastered that yet. Yeah. But I did. So I ran to the top, and you can watch it all on YouTube if you so desire. And I got to the top, and I was just kind of lingering around, and I took some videos, some pictures for the actual junket piece. And while I was there, this kid comes up to me, probably like, I don't know, like 19, something like that. And he's asked me to take his picture, and he has kind of an accent. And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, of course, no problem. I was like, do you want a picture, video? He's like, a video, if you can do it. I said, yeah, sure. So I took a couple of videos of him, and he's carrying a flag, and he holds the flag over his head, and he's like, yo, Adrian, I did it. Mm-hmm. And I handed it over to him, and the flag is a Mexican flag. And I was chatting with him, and he was like, I've been trying to get here for years. Like, this has been my dream to get here and run these steps. And he's like, I'm so emotional right now. He's like, I feel like I'm going to cry. And I was like, you know, I just like shook his hand, and I was just like, and he told me he was from Mexico and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, like it really opened my eyes to like how far reaching the Rocky mythos goes. Like, this is a kid from Mexico whose like dream was to come here and run the Philadelphia Museum of Art steps, the Rocky Steps, and to do what he did. And it was like pretty amazing. to me, just to see the legacy of those films and what they mean to people all over the world, not just Americans, but people all over the world.
I'm Canadian, and it's closer than
what,
but it's just the thing is, I grew up with those movies, though. That was the thing, like firmly embedded in my DNA. And like I told you, every birthday party that I went to, they always put on Rocky 2 or Rocky 3, right?
Why do they put on Rocky movies at birthday parties? That's so weird.
It was the 80s. It was the early 80s. That was the thing. That's all we wanted to watch, though. That was
Happy
it.
Birthday,
Star Wars.
Chris.
It was
on
Star
Rocky
Wars.
2.
It was Star Wars or Rocky. Or that Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe. I saw that one at a lot of birthday parties. Yeah. But oh my God. Well, no, that's the thing, though. The Rocky movies do inspire people. And they it's funny. There was a video on YouTube of like some 4-year-old working out in his house. Whenever his dad puts on a Rocky movie, the kids like follows the workout and can do it. Like, it's kind of, yeah, you do. You want to be Rocky. You want to be that. And it's so far reaching. I remember there was an episode.
But that's what it showed me, like the generational thing. Like, this kid was like, he had to be somewhere between 17 and 19.
Yeah.
He's a teenager. And he's yelling, "Yo, Adrian!" Like he yelled it at the top of his lungs, holding that flag over his head. Like, he was super proud. And I was just like, wow, like this is a millennial, essentially, that's into Rocky, that's shouting the "Yo, Adrian!" And it's like, that's pretty amazing. That's awesome.
It gets passed down too, though, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think he probably didn't discover it on his own. I'm sure it was a parent or uncle or somebody showed him the films, but it's like the films still reached him.
So that actually brings me to a question I wanted to ask. So I saw that you brought your son to see Rocky 2, not Rocky 2, Creed 2. Good job.
Yep.
So how many of the Rocky movies has he seen?
He's seen Creed. I took him to Creed to see it at the theaters, but I think he's only watched like Rocky 4 in passing. So I haven't gotten him into the actual Rocky film. I'm actually excited to show them to him. What I want to do is like start from the beginning and watch 1 through 6 with him. So that's the plan. Maybe do it over the holidays.
My dad told me that the first VHS tape he ever rented was Rocky, because it was one of the first movies put out in videotape.
Mm.
Yeah, him and his brother they rented it, and it was he had seen it obviously a bunch of times, but they are aspirational movies, though, and I love them. And the thing that I really loved the most about the movie, though, and you kind of touched on it last week, was the Dragos. I loved the Dragos. I thought they were great, and I thought that Lundgren's performance was killer in the movie. And the other guy was really good too, but Lundgren in particular slayed me. And I loved his scene with Rocky, because he's not backing down, and he's not asking for Rocky's sympathy, and he's not asking for for forgiveness or anything like that. But I loved the arc. I liked how you got the sense that he was trying to win respectability for his son. I loved all the stuff with Brigitte Nielsen. I thought that was so cool. And then
I didn't want to ruin that surprise. And then also with Milo coming back at the end.
Yeah.
For Rocky. I think those were just great. And I remember thinking, I was like, God, I hope Milo comes back.
Yeah, I thought he would, though. I'd heard that he might, and I was kind of thinking he would. And it's funny because he looks a lot like Stallone. That's the thing.
Well, it's like perfectly cast.
Yeah. But I loved that whole arc, and I loved what Drago.
And that little kid did look like Adrian too. Yeah. Their kid, he's like, you look just like his mother. And I was like looking at that kid, and I was like, holy shit, he really does. So they perfectly cast that too.
I like when Adonis asked Rocky how he proposed to Adrian. He goes, "Oh, we were at a zoo, and there was this tiger, and he had this beautiful snow on its back, and it was okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm good."
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So anyways, I loved Creed 2. I'm really glad you did. But yeah, again, back to the Dragos real quick, though.
Yeah.
What I loved about them, and I'm sure you'll feel the same, is that, and I told this to Dolph and Florian when I interviewed them, I was like, the Dragos aren't the villains.
No, they're
like,
not.
They're the adversary, but they're not the villains. Like, these aren't like cartoon, because let's be honest, like, Drago in Rocky 4 is kind of a cartoon villain.
Oh, God, yeah. He's like the devil.
But what's great about it is that they took that story and they really like manifested it in a realistic way where, they're in the Ukraine, they're not even in Russia.
What would happen to him in, Soviet era Russia?
Yeah, he'd be ousted from society, it's a communist fucking shithole. And they're like, yeah, fuck you. You're fucking ruined. Get lost to an American.
Yeah.
And, but it was just great to see them, just as layered characters, not just like cartoon cutouts. And the whole thing with Brigitte coming out and just kind of getting to that mix, and you just got into these characters' heads. And by the end, I was kind of like, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't sure either. I would have been okay if he
just destroy this guy, because I was like, well,
I don't want him to be destroyed. Yeah, and I felt like, the thing is, my idea was that, well, if Creed loses, he'll be okay. I mean, he's got, it's not going to ruin his life. And it was just kind of.
But even a win for Victor would have been still kind of false for him, because
it almost would have
been
like
the only thing that could have. It's basically saying that only victory would have gotten you your family back, and things happen. Whereas it showed that he could lose and actually gain his father, because that's what happened. He lost, and his father saw like, hey, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, he stepped up.
And he became a father. And I just think that's great. Like, how the fuck does that happen in a Creed 2 with fucking Dragos that were cartoon cutouts in Rocky 4? And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, these are like layered great characters.
Well, it's just extremely good writing, I think, by Stallone and Jewel Taylor. Think so. And I think the directing was really good too. I think Capel did a great job, Yeah. I really, I loved it so much that it's at the point now, though, when I was reading negative reviews of it on Rotten Tomatoes, it was just, I couldn't help myself, because I just couldn't understand why people wouldn't like it. And it was bothering me reading these bad reviews, though. I just didn't fucking get it. And it was pissing me off. It's like, and I feel like the people that were giving it a hard time were only giving it a hard time because it had a Roman numeral in the title, because it was a sequel. And and because Coogler wasn't back. And the fucked up thing is,
Coogler.
I would bet that Coogler probably thought it was a great movie too. I would bet he thought it was excellent.
I don't know what would Coogler have done different that would have made it better. I think Coogler's a little. I think Coogler is a little overrated at this point, in the sense that I need to see him do, like, Black Panther was one of the most underwhelming Marvel movies for me, and I know so many people love it, and that's fine. But in terms of like action and the story was good. I thought the story and the acting was good in Black Panther, but like the action and the execution did not impress me at all.
But
in fact, I was really, really underwhelmed by it. So I'd like to see. I know Coogler can do drama, which I saw in Creed. I never saw Fruitvale Station. I know that's like the one. Oh, you need to see that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get there someday.
It's the thing about.
But he's still a young filmmaker. He still has. He
is extremely young. And the thing is, though, I mean, he'll always have my respect for what he did with Creed, though. That's the thing, because
he did a great job with
Stallone. And Stallone didn't write Creed. That's the thing. Which almost makes Creed 2 all the more impressive, because he was able to just kind of pick it up pretty flawlessly. But
and I think that's because originally he was going to direct it.
Yeah, but he didn't write Creed, though, and that's the thing. And I think that Coogler really nailed that series. Like, I think it showed a person who really understood the whole Rocky mythos. And I would bet that that's why Stallone and him, got on so well and were able to keep doing these movies, because I would assume that if Coogler's take wasn't exactly right, there would have never been a Creed movie, because Stallone has the life rights to those characters, and it just would have never happened. But he really, so he'll always kind of have my respect for that. Like, he really nailed that and he brought in really interesting characters and a new take on it that was brilliant, right? It was a really, really good take. But at the same time, Creed 2, in a weird way, is almost more impressive, just because Sly was able to pick up so well on the vibe of the first movie. And I mean, I don't think anybody could watch it too and say that, oh, well, it's not in the tradition of the first movie. I mean, I feel like it's also something that's going to cross over to such a wide audience, right? I could see black audiences really liking it, because, in no way is Creed marginalized at all. It's really continues that story. But I could see like old time Rocky fans liking it too. Like, it's really for everyone. And I just don't understand why the reviews were giving it a hard time.
I didn't read any of those reviews. I don't give a fuck. Fuck Rotten Tomatoes. Fuck them. I don't even go. I hate Rotten Tomatoes so much. I don't even go there.
Oh, me too. And I mean, even though I benefit from it, I do hate it too.
Fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
it does nothing for me. So anyways, that was our Creed 2 love fest. You should go see it if you haven't already. If you're a Rocky fan, I just don't see how you wouldn't love it, but hey, you make up your own mind. So moving on, we'll cover a few news bits here. Chris, I know this is near and dear to your heart, but Lee Child has said that Jack Reacher is going to get rebooted as a TV series. Now, we've had 2 Jack Reacher films starring Chris's unnamed father, Tom Cruise.
Best friend, you mean?
his bestie. I really liked the first one, which was Christopher McQuarrie. The second one was like probably the most disappointing Tom Cruise film I've seen in a decade.
Yeah.
And I was kind of embarrassed for him. I was embarrassed for the director too.
Well, I liked it a lot.
Movies.
I liked it a lot more than The Mummy, though. Like The Mummy, I was.
That's a face-off.
Like The Mummy, I was legit embarrassed for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it was just,
or not even embarrassed, horrified.
Yeah,
right? Like,
I'll say that.
God.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. Yeah, he really, between the Jack Reacher and The Mummy, that's
like watching.
Serious low point for Cruise.
It's like seeing your mother dressed up as a whore.
Hey, that's how I was made.
Yeah. It's like, it's how dare you do this to Tom Cruise?
But here, I gotta say, there's so many things wrong with The Mummy. I don't think we ever discussed. I don't know if we did. We probably did.
Oh, yeah, there are so many things wrong.
But there's so many things where I'm just like, why? Like, there's so many why parts.
Also, why turn it into a remake of American Werewolf in London at a certain point? Like, I didn't get
so much stupidity. And dude, making that PG-13 is just an insult because it was so boring. Like, The Walking Dead on AMC is like 1,000 times gorier than The Mummy. And when that happens, you've seriously got a fucking problem on your hands. And then like you get to the end and Tom Cruise is like, it's almost like, people were making fun of Harrison Ford in Blade Runner 2049 because of like the wardrobe. He's like just in a jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And you're just like, they're like, hey, Harrison Ford, we need you to show up for costume fitting. And Harrison's like, fuck you. He's just in his t-shirt. And like at the end of The Mummy, like Tom Cruise is like a soldier. I'm a former soldier. And I know that if I'm on a mission doing like fighting and like anything like that, I'm not going to show up in like some fucking khakis and a button-up shirt. Yeah. And for some reason, it just annoys the piss out of me. I'm like, you're trying to say this is a soldier of fortune that's going to run around fighting a mummy in like some goddamn button-up shirt that he pulled off a fucking rack at fucking Nordstrom. Like, give me a break. Like, he's going to be geared up to a point, at least something. But no, it's so annoying. It's just annoying.
I hated it. But it's funny though, the Jack Reacher story though, that's another thing that kind of pissed me off on Twitter. It bugged me so much when people were saying that Tom Cruise was being replaced. Tom Cruise is not being replaced, okay? First of all, Tom Cruise would never do a Jack Reacher TV series. Not going to happen. Never. Not in a million years.
And there's not going to be another movie, so what do you expect Tom Cruise to do?
So he's not being replaced, though. That's the thing. If he would never do a TV show, so it's like,
I mean, on a technical level, he's being replaced, but he's not being replaced because he, like, underperformed or, like, something up. It's like the movie didn't do well. I mean, I guess if you want to blame the movie not doing well on him, I guess that's kind of fair. But it's not like, oh, they're replacing him because of that. It's just like, well, they're just not making more movies.
And does anybody really care about the character that much, though? Is it that much like a part of people's,
It's just a popular book series. And it's like, let's just be honest, it's just kind of like mindless toss away entertainment. I'm sure Lee Child.
It's an airport book.
Yeah. Perfectly set. It's an airport.
Paperback,
yeah. People buy it. They're looking for something simple, not complex, that they can just kind of, oh man, Jack Reacher's beating the fuck out of somebody again. Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I don't really give two shits. Moving on. Ducky is going to play Lex Luthor on Supergirl.
It's funny that you say that because when I saw the agenda, I just saw Jack Reacher and Jon Cryer, and I was like, oh, Jon Cryer is Jack Reacher, eh? Interesting.
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 Now you have my.
Now you got my attention.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now I might have to check out a Jon Cryer led Jack Reacher because
I want. I'm watching now. I'm gonna watch. Yeah.
That would be funny. It'd be funny if he did it dressed as Ducky.
Yeah. Seriously.
Like, hey, I'm Jack Reacher.
I like Jon Cryer though. It's I've never liked Two and a Half Men. I hated that show. But I like an episode. I like Jon Cryer though as a person. Like I like his interviews and stuff like that, and I think he seems like a cool guy, and I like his book.
He does. He seems like a cool dude. And there's a movie he did. Oh man, I gotta look it up now. I can't remember the name. I used to watch it all the time.
Morgan Stewart's Coming Home?
Nope.
Hiding Out?
One where he goes undercover as a high school.
Hiding Out. Yeah.
So I used to watch that movie all the time as a kid, and I fucking
talking
loved
about
it.
a movie that would never get made now, though, because he's
He falls in love with the
teenager. He's like a 30-year-old accountant, and he falls in love with a 16-year-old.
I thought he was like a stockbroker.
And then I think it ends with him being like he's back at the school as a teacher, and they're gonna carry on the romance.
All these
they're gonna carry on the romance.
They need to make a sequel. Starts off like he's in jail.
Yeah, just getting out. Yeah.
Anyways, I love that movie. It had a song. There was a song in it.
Oh yeah, it's Crying. It's the remake of Crying, a really good one with Roy Orbison and Katie Lang.
It's like over. No, it was another one. It was like another upbeat song that was in it that they had in the trailers, and I can't remember. But it was like of the era. It's so 80s, man.
I really liked. I don't remember anything about it, but when I was a kid, I loved Morgan Stewart's Coming Home. That was a movie that he was in.
I don't think I've ever seen that, but everybody always talks about that.
I remember nothing about it. All I remember is that he was obsessed with horror in the film, and that was like the first time I saw I remember watching it with my dad. I watched it in like a really weird triple bill with my dad one afternoon on the Canadian HBO First Choice. Project X with Matthew Broderick with the chimpanzees. Did you ever see that one where there's like super smart chimpanzees? Project X. Yeah, Project X. Haven't seen that in a long time. Morgan Stewart's Coming Home, and then Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold.
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
Alan Quatermain.
I'm now getting lost. Like I remember that Keith Coogan was in Hiding Out. And I haven't seen him in forever. I always remember him from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Love that movie. And Toy Soldiers.
And he literally looks like Keith Coogan as you would imagine him at Keith Coogan at 40 or 50. It's so funny.
Toy Soldiers as well. Did you ever see that one with Sean Astin and Lou Gossett Jr.?
That movie's fucking stupid, though. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I know it's I mean, of course, like of the era, it's like good. But I remember the Will Wheaton character is just so fucking stupid when he gets the Uzi and he tries to shoot it and he shoots it in the air, and I'm like, you fucking jackass.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to be all sad, and I was like, he's dumb.
Yeah, he's Jerry Orbach's son in the movie.
Fucking toolbox. All right, so I guess we totally derailed there. Jon Cryer is going to play Lex Luthor, which has been played by many a different actor, I guess, with Jesse Eisenberg playing him most recently, kind of like the, unexpected twist. I guess Jon Cryer I think he could do something with Luthor.
Yeah.
I really liked Michael. I think I like Michael, God damn it, Rosenbaum.
Yeah.
I liked his Luthor a lot on Small.
I did too. I thought he kind of hit a good kind of balance there.
Well, I mean, of anybody that really distinguished themselves as like
wasn't a cartoon. Yeah, it wasn't a cartoon.
It was him. I mean, everybody loves the Gene Hackman version, but Gene Hackman version was it was cartoony.
Oh yeah,
and it was good, but it was cartoony.
Intentionally cartoony.
Sure, but I think Rosenbaum is kind of the ideal to live up to in terms of good Lex Luthor.
Well, like
Kevin Spacey was good in Superman Returns, but it was like I just didn't feel like he didn't really get a chance to shine beyond just being like this bastard,
Well, he should be like a businessman too, and he should be charismatic, and it should be kind of you could understand why people might want to follow him. There's also a
likability factor with Lex, where you're almost like hoping he'll be good. And I think when Rosenbaum was doing that on Smallville, I felt like there were times where I was like, man, maybe Lex will be good, like maybe he'll, somehow, turn into like a good guy. And he does that in the comics too. Like he teeters back and forth between being maniacally evil and like being kind of an anti-hero that like rallies to the good guy's side. It's a strange dynamic, but I just don't feel like anybody's really tapped into that like Rosenbaum did with Smallville. So kudos.
I didn't like the way that they handled him in the movies, because I always thought that it would have been a cool perspective to have Luthor as kind of like more of an anti-hero, where he thinks that, these guys are unchecked power, and let me fight. Like, and it was, they turned him into a cartoon villain at the end, and I just hated that. They had some ideas that were good,
BVS.
But yeah.
I liked Jesse Eisenberg as Lex, but BVS was like an origin Lex movie to that point, and you get that stinger at the end of Justice League, but who knows if he'll pop back up
I don't think so.
If he does, it will be a long ways away, and it's kind of disappointing because I really want to see that Deathstroke movie. That would be the shit. Man.
I feel bad for Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, but like, could you imagine that him and fucking Gareth Evans fucking Deathstroke movie? Like, that would be just badass. So, but probably not gonna happen. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what Cryer does. I'm still hoping he would just show up as Ducky, but it's not going to happen. So the past couple of days, we saw some new trailers. There was one for Once Upon a Deadpool came out. I'm very curious about what this is going to be. I really like Fred Savage. I love the Wonder Years, and I just like Fred Savage in general.
He's going to be in it for 2 minutes, though. You've probably seen the extent of his role.
I think it'd be more than that, but it's not going to be a lot. It's not going to be a huge time filler. I think the biggest problem I have with Once Upon a Deadpool is that I like Deadpool 2, but I don't want to go see that in the theaters again. Like, I saw it twice. I'm good. I have it on 4K. I don't really want to go to the theater to watch it again, and I just don't know that it's going to be seeing Fred Savage.
Yeah.
In the film going to be enough for me. So
and I just, for me, the thing about it is that, I think Deadpool fans should not go see it, distinctly should not support it, because the thing is they're testing the waters to see if they can do a PG-13 Deadpool movie. And if that movie does well, guess what? Deadpool 3 is going to be PG-13.
Guess what? I'm telling you right now, mark my words. The next Deadpool movie is going to be PG-13.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you.
I will be shocked if it's not.
Yeah.
My prediction, 100%, it'll be PG-13.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. You're going to get people that are going to be up in arms. Like, this is fucking bullshit. I'm not seeing it. I'm boycotting it. You know what Disney's going to say?
Who cares?
Fine. Don't go.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Deadpool will be firmly established at this point, which he already was before. And this is why I said the first Deadpool is going to be huge, because I knew culturally, in pop culture, Deadpool was already massively popular, just like Venom, already massively popular. Everybody knew who he was. Maybe your everyday audience wasn't quite sure who they were, but there's more non-hardcore fans that knew who these characters were and liked them. But that's the thing, is like, here's the other rub to the Deadpool rating thing. There's no R-rated Deadpool comic.
Yeah.
In the Deadpool comics, go pick one up. Go to the comic shop right now. If you don't believe me, go to the comic shop right now. Pick up any Deadpool comic. There's like 5 of them. Mm-hmm. Show me the parts where he's dropping F-bombs and doing stuff, that's like, that would be R-rated. Now, is there blood and gore? Sure. Is it like super over the top like it is in the movie? Not quite. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, yes, but not on a regular basis. So Disney's going to look at all of that, I guarantee you. And if you have Feige working on Deadpool with Reynolds and the writers and everything, they're probably going to find a good balance.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I'm just saying if people like the R-rated Deadpool, then don't go out and support Once Upon a Deadpool, because that's all they're doing. They're just testing the waters to see if a PG-13 version can work. So if you want it to be R-rated, do not support it.
And I don't think they'll ever come out and actually say that.
Oh, it's going to happen, though. There's no way. The whole thing is an experiment. And the thing is, Reynolds, I would bet, is totally fine with it, too, because why wouldn't he be? He could be in all the Marvel movies, crossover. It's great for him. Right. It extends his career another 20 years. He could play Deadpool for a long, long time,
But here's the other thing that you just have to face is the reality of the situation is that Disney is taking over Fox. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah. You're just not going to make Deadpool anymore? Like, are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Like, that is Ryan Reynolds' fucking calling card. Why? I mean, he's going to play ball.
Sure.
He'll fight his battles. He fought his battles to get the movie made, but it's like, these are the circumstances he has to deal with. It's not up to him.
No, he's got to live with it.
He can fight Disney for an R rating. Disney's going to be like, listen, we are Disney. We are family oriented.
Do it. Yeah.
We don't make R-rated movies. They don't.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. That's the thing. If Touchstone still existed, then maybe you would have a shot at it.
But this is a Marvel staple character.
Yeah.
They're going to put him in the fold, man. They're not going to be like,
and the thing is, Touchstone doesn't exist anymore. That's the thing, and it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Maybe 20th Century Fox might occasionally put out an R-rated movie if they leave it alone and they leave it as kind of if they let it be an independent entity. But
well, they've said they would do that with Fox Searchlight, but
all the Marvel stuff though is going to go to Disney proper. Of course it is. The X-Men will too.
Yeah, it's all going to be PG-13. I'm sorry to say, but
absolutely.
But people get all upset about that. But the thing is, like, all these comics are PG-13.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you. Like the Punisher, if you're going to do a Punisher movie, that should be R, because they did, you know, they're traditionally very hardcore. And then you have the whole Marvel Max run, which is an R-rated comic.
Yeah.
And they did that for years. And they're some of the best fucking Punisher stories ever made. R-rated, yes, all the way. But most of these characters aren't. Like, they're superheroes, man. They're not R-rated characters. It's just, you kind of have to accept that. And even though, like, I supported Deadpool being an R, and, you know, it was a cool thing that we got to break with, you know, Fox and Reynolds and everybody when the rating thing came out, I'm not quite positive that it was necessary for it to be R, because outside of, like, the constant F-bombs, I didn't really see what was so R-rated. And I guess that's where the lines get blurred these days in terms of PG-13 and R, is that you can do so much with a PG-13. I feel like the rating is changing itself. You know,
a big problem though with the whole Once Upon a Deadpool thing is that I feel like when Disney controls the rights to Fox, though, you're gonna have a hard time finding the original Deadpool and the original Deadpool 2 in the R-rated versions, because they're gonna end up on Disney Plus. They're not gonna stream an R-rated version of the movies, so I feel like it's gonna be like those are almost gonna be obscure.
So they'll be like 20 minutes long.
No, well, they're gonna run the PG-13 version. You'll see Once Upon a Deadpool, and I heard somewhere that, like, in Once Upon a Deadpool it wasn't even necessarily just Deadpool 2, that they integrated stuff from the first Deadpool as well. So I feel like that's what you're gonna have on Disney Plus, and the rest of these movies, I hope you have them on Blu-ray or something like that, because they might become harder to get at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, we'll always have those.
Sure. So, I mean, they'll never disappear entirely, but I just think that version of the character, I think that's kind of gone, you know, and I think a movie like Logan, you know, they had a very small window for it to get made, and luckily it did, but I don't think you'll necessarily see anything like it again, not from Disney and not from Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I even told my kid, I was like, yeah, they're probably not going to make another R-rated Deadpool. Even he was disappointed. I was like, well, I mean, I guess we'll just have to be happy that we got 2 of them, you know. But really, I just feel like the Deadpool movies in themselves, I love them, but I feel like the R-ratedness of them it almost feels excessive to even call them R-rated outside of the language.
Well, I mean,
because the violence is like, it's like a video game.
And and the thing is, I never even really liked the humor of the Deadpool movies. That's the thing. I always thought that they were just stupid. You know, I mean, I never really liked the R-rated humor in them. I just thought it was easy jokes. In a way, I'm almost more intrigued by the fact that it's going to be PG-13, because I feel like they're going to have to be more clever with the writing, which I don't find they were on the first 2. That said, I get why people like them. But that said, I get why people like them so much, though, and, you know, for their sakes, I'm disappointed. So I'm not against the PG-13 Deadpool, though. I don't like the way it's being done, where they're testing the waters, and it's being so, like, that they're not just coming out and saying what it actually is.
I think it's peeling the Band-Aid off slowly is what they're doing.
I don't like the little shady way. You know, if they were to say, no, we're doing PG-13 Deadpool movies, I'd have a lot more respect for it, you know, but it's just, I don't like the kind of, let's test the waters a bit kind of way they're doing it. And it feels like a total cash grab too. And it feels like a total cash grab too. Like, you have to put it out in theaters. Why not just release it digitally?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to see it in theaters, but
let's milk this cash cow a little bit more.
Yeah. So another trailer that came out was the Lion King trailer teaser for the Jon Favreau directed live action version of the famous animated cartoon. Now, I saw at CinemaCon earlier this year, back in April, the full trailer for this, and it was literally the entire opening of the animated film done in live action style, like shot for shot. It was really long, and I remember just thinking immediately, I was like, this movie is going to make so much fucking money.
Yeah, but now let me ask you though, is that what it's going to be though? Is it going to literally be like a scene for scene remake of the
Probably,
original?
I can't say, but I don't think so. It's not going to be not like Psycho.
No.
I think it'll be, it'll have some, original stuff to it. It'll have some of the songs. But they have a lot of the original cast back too, which is interesting. And I'm not sure.
Well, no, it's just James Earl Jones. He's the only one who's back.
Is he the only one? I thought somebody else. Isn't Jeremy Irons?
No, it's Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Oh, that's right. Oh, fuck.
No, it's just James Earl Jones.
Okay. I'm curious if Hans Zimmer is coming. I don't know how you do.
Hans Zimmer is coming back. Hans Zimmer is
okay. Coming. Well, that's what I mean. I
think he was. I think he was like the first person they signed. It has to be Hans Zimmer. Who else?
Yeah. What do you get? James Newton Howard to do the score?
I mean, that score was incredible too. I mean,
it won an Oscar. Like
Tim Rice is back too. They're adapting their songs again. Even Elton John. Apparently, Elton John.
Can you feel
he's retired
now tonight?
Apparently he's retired now, but him and Tim Rice they did a song with Beyonce for the end credits because Beyonce is voicing Nala.
You know what'd be funny is, have you ever seen lions fuck before?
No.
It's really funny. Like I saw a video of it once. No, it's not even that. It's like it's so casual. Like the lioness is just like literally just sitting. And the lion just comes up and just kind of mounts, like it's almost like he just stands over her and like she just does not move and he just starts slapping away and you see like the lion balls just flopping. And it's humorous because you're like, oh, they're just straight up fucking. And it'd just be so funny if they did that in this live action version, which I'm sure they will because it's Disney.
It reminds me.
It's like start playing the Elton John song, like, and have like the dreamy sequence, and then just like kind of do a record scratch, and then just show like the line.
It's like MacGruber, so where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna fill you up. I'm gonna fill you up." Yeah.
I'll never work for Disney.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that.
Like he needs to be take his badge. Escort him off the premises. Like he keeps making these lion fucking jokes.
I'm gonna fill you up. I'm gonna fill you up.
I love MacGruber. That movie's so fucking stupid. I love it.
Pound and cunt.
Movie's hilarious. So now we're gonna change gears here. A little more, I guess, serious, dour, however you want to look at it. So Bill Maher, who you may know from...
Why are we even talking about Bill Maher, though? I mean, he's fucking loudmouth idiot. Always running his mouth.
I thought you liked Bill Maher.
I don't like Bill Maher. I'm a liberal, but I don't like Bill Maher.
Isn't he like liberal mouthpiece?
No, everybody hates him. Most liberals hate Bill Maher.
Yeah, interesting. Well, who loves him anymore then?
I don't understand why he's still on HBO too. It seems like nobody likes him. Liberals hate him. Conservatives hate him.
Yeah, I think it's because he appeals to both sides sometimes. Where he'll play like he does that. He'll play both sides of an argument. But anyways, he made some disparaging remarks about Stan Lee and people's reactions to Stan Lee's death, which really got people fired up. So I'm gonna just give you a little taste here. So he had written on his blog, I guess, saying, "The guy who created Spider-Man and the Hulk has died, and America is in mourning. Deep, deep mourning for a man who inspired millions to, I don't know, watch a movie, I guess." And then he goes on to say, "Now, I have nothing against comic books. I read them now and then when I was a kid, and I was all out of Hardy Boys. But the assumption everyone had back then, both the adults and the kids, was that comics were for kids, and when you grew up, you moved on to big boy books without the pictures." And then he finished off with, "Donald Trump could only get elected in a country that thinks comic books are important."
Oh, wow.
So let me, and I understand, like, in the Stan Lee's spokespeople, I guess they issued a what I would call a retaliation against those comments, which I think I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's too long, but too long. Didn't read. It's a perfect retort to Bill Maher's comments. But this is one of the problems I see, not just not in any political spectrum, either liberal or conservative. I see it on the far reaches of both of those fringes. And that is that, people tend to treat comics as like some kind of throwaway art form. and it irks me to no end. Like, I am a comic book artist. I've drawn comics and comic themed artwork my entire life. And I love comics. I love the medium. I love everything that it does. It is masterful. And not all comics are superhero comics. And this is the thing, like, there's stories that I've read from in comics that are just like fucking amazing pieces of work that had, really gave me like some deep introspective thought. But Maher, I'm sure, has never picked up those books. He's never read Preacher or Scalped
or even something alternative like R. Crumb's work or American Splendor or Mao's even.
Yeah, there's so many, and it's such an expressive, beautiful medium.
Sure.
It kind of baffles me that somebody like Maher would be so dismissive of the medium. But you know what? I encountered it when I was in college too. I remember I was in one of my art classes and one of my teachers was like, "Oh, it's just pop art. It's nothing more than that." And I was like, "Fuck off." Like that. And I remember fighting with her in class about it. And she was showing me that, who is it? Lichtenstein, I think, or another artist that does these comic book reproduction kind of things and passes it off as fine art. And I'm like, he's ripping off comic book art and calling it fine art. And you're telling me that comic book art is not fine art. It's fucking bullshit. Like there's such a disrespect to comics that they're just, a complete misunderstanding that turns into disrespect, that people just don't understand the medium like your everyday people, especially these blowhards like fucking Bill Maher, or even I've heard, Rush Limbaugh talking shit about comics before. And who was it? Like, I think it was somebody I was talking to that listens to Limbaugh. I don't listen to Limbaugh. I have much better things to do with my life. And he was saying how, like, the current Batman, like when Christian Bale was Batman, was saying how, oh, he's all dark and brooding now, not like the Batman we grew up with. I'm like, the Batman you grew up with, the 1960s fucking show that lasted 2 years? You're telling me that's who Batman is?
Well, like, I know, but the comics were always
Dark Knight Returns. Have you read anything?
Even Detective Comics, the night in the 1930s and 40s could occasionally get really dark. I used to really like Golden Age comics when I was a kid. I used to love the old ones, right? Whenever they would do a reprint of an old comic from like 30s, 40s, 50s, I loved those because I thought they were so, I loved the artwork and, they inspired me when I was growing up. Look, I'm not a big comic book reader now. But I mean, I respect the medium for sure. And who's anybody to say that it's lesser than something else? People used to say that about movies all the time in the early 20th century. It was seen as like this derogatory kind of, that's the thing everybody uses, pop art, right? To talk down about something, basically to say it's shit or it doesn't matter. But then again, look at what movies have done over the last 100 years and look at how it changes hearts and minds and look at how it inspires people. It's the same thing. Pop music. Pop music is just that whole thing. When you call something pop, it means that it's somewhat lesser than, right? And
it's dismissive. It's dismissive of anything as
what's
art.
The point? It's music, and it's movies, and it's comics. I mean, who's anybody to say that one art form is lesser than something else? Because it's really all in the eye of the beholder too, and it depends on what you take from it. And if you say that you were inspired by comics and that it's been important to you in your life, then hey, that makes it very legitimate in my eyes.
I don't think I would be doing what I do now if it weren't for comics. Like,
he's even just an idiot, though. I mean, Bill Maher, I don't know, whatever. He just likes to stir shit up because it gives him rating. And the sad thing is, it actually works, and that's why.
Sure, I mean, hey, it got a new story from us. There's a lot of shares on that story, but I think a lot of it too is because people want to show like, hey, fuck this guy.
My girlfriend is American, okay, and she's as liberal as they come, more so than I am, right? I'm pretty liberal, but she's even more. You guys would be probably completely opposite ends of the spectrum. She hates Bill Maher. We were waiting for an episode of Sharp Objects.
Liberals actually love me,
and he came on. Yeah, I'm sure they probably do. But she just heard like his voice in the background. She was like, "Oh, please turn it off," because she can't stand his voice because he's so annoying.
And yeah, I think he's very different from what he started out as too. And I just think his dismissive attitude to things, but it's representative of not just it's not just liberal, but it's like your far right conservatives do the same thing. They just dismiss it,
Everybody
really doesn't matter. I just think that really, I think it's a show of self-importance, like people that like get so self-important and they think that they have the pulse of what is or what should be renowned or celebrated. They don't know shit. They're full of shit. They're so far up their own assholes that they have lost sight of what makes people tick. They think they know. They think they know what's best, but they don't have any fucking idea. They don't have a clue.
Well, it's
you should think about that anytime you're listening to these people that you think have like some kind of unique perspective on what's going on, either politically or in the world or in our culture. You'll find that most of them are lost in the sauce. They don't know shit. They have no idea what we care about.
And it's sad to see like bipartisan political discourse has just gone down the toilet, right, over the last 20 years, especially, you know, and it's just kind of sad that people can't meet somewhere in the middle and discuss things rationally anymore, right? Because it always just devolves into like this anti-intellectual, childish name-calling thing, you know? It's like people can't actually have legitimate conversations anymore, and it's too bad, because if people could have those conversations, I feel like the world would be in a much better place, and you wouldn't be one party against the other. You know, like, why don't we try and find some middle ground and see what we actually have in common? But we can't do that anymore, because you say that, and it's like, oh, you're terrible. You're this, or you're this is blah, 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 and then fuck it.
Yeah, excess on either side helps.
But that's what we, you know, and that's, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's kind of one of the things that we do in Canada that makes Canada a good country, is that we do kind of meet in the middle a little bit more. There is more rational political discourse in this country, you know, and it works for us. But in the US, it's really kind of devolved horribly.
I don't know, to a point. I think Trudeau's kind of a fucking toolbox, but that's my
opinion. But there are a lot of people that don't necessarily support him, and their voices aren't necessarily silenced. They're not called a racist for not supporting him. Thing.
I mean, he says some really stupid shit.
So but you couldn't call him out though. And you won't necessarily.
Oh, and people do. I know. We have Canadian listeners too who I think feel very similar. They're just kind of like.
And you won't necessarily be called a racist. That's the thing, you know. I mean, I don't. You know, I voted for Trudeau, but I don't really support everything that he does. I find he runs his mouth off at times and doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But I can.
Well, he's kind of arrogant and he's kind of one of the self-important types where he's like. He's a virtue signaler at the highest fucking rate.
Well, he is extremely arrogant. I mean, that's the thing. Like he always has been. He was kind of, you know, he's the child of privilege, and at the same time, though, he does have his strengths as well. Though I think he puts a good image out of Canada into the world that kind of maybe didn't necessarily exist before. You know, kind of but. You know, there's the good and the bad with Trudeau. Like I'm really kind of divided whether or not I'd vote for him again, but it would depend on who he was running against. You know, and you know, it's I don't know. It's even, but the thing is,
but I mean, at least you can look at it from all sides. You know, you're not a slave to a choice.
But we,
and I think that's how it should
be. And we can do that in Canada, though. I can
support
him, but I could also, but I can support him, but I can also call him an asshole at times and not support certain things that he does, and that's okay. But I feel like in the U.S. you can't really do that, because
we've kind of drawn a line in the sand these days, which is really fucked up. You know, so you either if you don't completely you know, denounce Trump, then you're a Nazi racist, and if you are against Trump, then you're pretty much Antifa. And it's like you can't find a medium in there where it's like, well, let's look at everything. But anyways, let's not devolve too further into politics. But I think the main point I had was just that you get these excesses on both sides of the political spectrum, and they tend to get so self-important that they can no longer see the forest for the trees. And I think that's where this dismissiveness about comics and comic culture becomes something just bullshit. And I said before, like when we talked about Stan Lee's passing, that I would not be who I am today without Stan Lee. Like the man had, and I really had, the thing is I hadn't even really given it that much thought until after he died. And I was like, wow, like this guy had a bigger impact on me than I thought.
Sure.
Because had he not done what he had done, I don't know who I would be. I'd be some version of myself, but I wouldn't be who I am right now. So, and I appreciate that. Like and he didn't make me into a bad thing. It was a good thing. And I appreciate greatly the legacy he left behind. So anyways, fuck you, Bill Maher. He's going to hear that. He's going to be very upset. Mm-hmm. So moving on, Birds of Prey title was released. Margot Robbie shared it on her Instagram.
It's not the real title. She's just...
No, it is. It's official.
Really?
Yeah. Sorry. So it's called Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. So I feel like that's the way that the whole purpose of this title is not to be clever, but to work Harley Quinn's name into it to bring in people to go see it. Because Birds of Prey is not enough for your average reader or viewer. Sorry.
Interesting.
So, anyways, I think it's kind of a take on Birdman, which had another pretentious thing.
Yet everybody always just called it Birdman, and everybody else will just call this Birds of Prey.
Yeah. Or Bop. Bop, Bop.
Bop.
That's what I'm going to call it. I was going to call it Bop. I don't have anything else to say about that. I just thought I'd comment on it.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, so we have two more things we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about... Chris is going to talk about this new Robin Hood movie, and we're going to talk about bad reboots. Mm-hmm. And then I am going to give my little mini Aquaman review because the embargo lifts Monday. By the time this goes up, it will have broken. So
why don't we start with your Aquaman review? I mean, that's what people want to hear. Then we'll wrap up with the reboot talk.
I was trying to make it stay to the end, but okay, if you want to talk about it now, we can talk about it now. So bottom line, I loved Aquaman.
You hated it.
I loved it. I had an absolute blast with it. I think you're going to have people that are going to some folks are going to walk away from it and say it was cheesy. I think you'll have some people that will say it is that it's got some tonal problems, which it does have some tonal shifts. But big but it has so much going for it that when it was over, I was relieved. Honestly, when it was over, because I was like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God they got all the things right that I wanted to see. Because I was concerned, I was like, I was really, really excited for Aquaman. Okay. It doesn't have anything like, yes. Okay. I went to the set visit a year ago and we've kind of been following along with it, but I've been hyped. Like, I love comic book movies. I love comics. It's my bag. So for me, like, the hype was real, and my anxiety was very real too. Like, because I was like, God, I just hope they get it right. And they did. They got it right. Like, the strengths of Aquaman 1 are Jason Momoa is just great as the character. And I thought about it too, is like, I don't think you could have done an Aquaman movie with, like, say, it doesn't really have anything to do with race per se, but I'm just going to use this example of, like, the blonde haired white guy that's like just has no real flaws or no voice. He's just kind of like vanilla. Like, let's say you got Armie Hammer as like Aquaman. It would be so fucking boring. And I thought about it. I was like, oh God. Like, I mean, at this point, I don't see anybody but Momoa as Aquaman. And I love that. I think that's great. And I just think that he just embodies this character, and he's done it before. Like, I've been catching up on Game of Thrones with him playing Khal Drogo. He's just great. He's just got this awesome fucking presence.
It's funny. I've been catching up on Game of Thrones also, but go on.
Are you? I'm rewatching the whole thing. I'm up to season 3 again now. So, but he's just great. He's great as Arthur Curry. He's great as Aquaman. And I love his take on this character. Amber Heard is good. I don't feel like Amber Heard stood out in any like crazy way. I just thought she was good, but it wasn't like, oh my God, Mira is so layered. She's not. I mean, she's cool, and she's obviously just stunningly beautiful. But the action scenes in Aquaman, I just think are handled so well. Like, the action is really, really good. And obviously that's a testament to what Juan brings to the table. And that's what you're kind of going to see these movies for. Like, you want to see the spectacle, and Juan brings the spectacle. The thing is too, it is a beautiful film. Like, all the underwater stuff, the Atlantis stuff, and most of the movie takes place underwater, it's beautiful. Like, the effects, everything are just awesome. The other thing to the film is that there's some sequences that just, like, they feel like a 90s action movie, which I love. Like there's a montage sequence of like Black Manta working on his stuff, and they got like this rock music playing, and there's just like different sequences where I was like, this is like a 90s action movie, like kind of like Demolition Man, but done with like today's effects, you know, our the high art level effects that we have, and like with A-list kind of performances. And I was just like, that is so cool. Like I loved that aspect of it. Black Manta as well is awesome. And I know there was like people concerned about, oh, he's just going to be like a glorified cameo, but it's not. It's more like a Black Manta origin film as much as it is a Aquaman origin film. So if you love Black Manta, you're going to get a good feel of Black Manta in this. Like there's a lot more to him. Some of the dialogue is, you know, cheesy and goofy. There's a couple playful scenes that I think will throw some people off because they're, you know, hoping for like maybe a BVS darkness. This is not BVS. This is not a dark film. So if you're one of these, I find there's a lot of holdouts in the DC fan base that are just like, they want to return to Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. It's time to accept that era is over. That the Snyder's take on all of these characters, it was a good starting point, but they're going to go in a different direction. And this is part of that different direction. I said this actually, and I'll say this on my my tweets tomorrow or Monday, that Aquaman is the best Marvel movie that DC has made. And I know some people are going to be pissed at that. They're like, oh God, DC's gone Marvel. It's like, no, what I mean by that is that this is like one of the first time that I feel like they've really tapped into their own kind of voice, but also into hitting the genre in a stride. And I really like that. It really just, it made me happy. It still has all the comic book lore and throwbacks and coolness and things that you want to expect, but it also still continues to build on the brand. Also to address that it does acknowledge previous events. But the only real acknowledgement to the broader DCU is they talk about when Mira comes to enlist him, she's like, hey, you know, I need your help. And he's like, no. Last time I went with you, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, they address the events of Justice League. So yes, this absolutely falls within that timeline and with the broader universe. But in terms of like cameos and all that other shit, this is very much Aquaman's movie. This is not some shit where you have Batman showing up at the end, you know, giving him a nod saying, we need your help. This is Aquaman's movie. Other standout performances, Nicole Kidman, so good. She's kind of, pun intended, fish out of water at the very beginning. And it's great to see her in a role like this because she's just having fun. Yeah. And not trying to win an Oscar. And it's great to see her just kind of cut loose. And she's actually really great at the action stuff too. I'm sure there's a stunt double in there too for some of it, but speaking of Nicole
Kidman action, wait until you see Destroyer.
Oh, I can't wait to see Destroyer. I'm pumped.
Oh man, that is a great movie, and she's really good in the action stuff in that film.
Ah, good.
I feel like that's gonna relaunch Nicole Kidman as like an odd action. No, but I feel like it's going to change her career, though. I feel like you're going to start seeing suddenly thrillers with like Nicole Kidman starring in it. Like just the way they handle I feel like that movie's going to change her career in a good way.
We'll see. I think Aquaman will probably help her too, because it's just like it's something that lets her just kind of just chill. It's
a good 1-2 punch, I think.
Yeah. So she's great in it. And there's some surprises. Here's the other thing too. A lot of people are concerned with like, oh man, all the trailers have showed everything. Dude, I cannot stress this enough. You haven't seen shit. Like there's so much coolness, and I just gotta give so much credit to to Juan and everybody and the promotional team for holding back, because the ending of the film, there's so much awesome shit that goes down, and they give you a few little teases and hints, like, you know, there's gonna be a giant battle, which there is, but you don't know. And seeing Momoa in the classic costume that's obviously updated, you know, to look cool, to me is as cool as seeing Batman for the first time in the 1989 film, where you're like, oh my God, there he is. He's Batman, you know, seeing like Momoa in that classic costume and seeing them really embrace it. I was like, so like hyped. I was just like, oh, this is so fucking cool. And ultimately, that's what I walked away from. Like Aquaman, I was just like, this is so fucking cool. It's awesome. Like they managed to make Aquaman awesome. And that was always going to be the trick. And I don't think you could have done it 10 years ago.
Who does the score?
Rupert Gregson Williams, who did Wonder Woman.
How is
the score? The score it's good. It's not. I really need to hear it again. But you've heard it before. It's actually you know that little guitar riff that's like do 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 do. When you see Aquaman, that's kind of like his theme, or part of it rather. But it's good. It's serviceable. I don't want to say it's like a standout, but I need to hear it again. I don't feel like I have. I've heard enough to give a firm up or down, thumbs up or thumbs down on it yet. And there's actually some really just great visual scenes in this movie, and there's even some kind of like Zack Snyder-esque type moments. They do use like the speed ramping stuff, which I love when it's done well. And James Wan really just. This is not throwaway action stuff. Like that, you feel the punches, the kicks, the movements. Like there's so many iconic scenes in this movie where you're like, fuck yeah. Like there's so many scenes that look like they're ripped from a comic. Like, and I remember telling James this, I was like, after we saw the movie, I was like, there's so many scenes where it looks like it's ripped straight from like a splash page or a double page splash. And I felt like they understood the medium of that they were adapting. And I feel like that's very important when you're making a comic book film, is that you understand what are you making? What are the key things you need to get right? And I feel like the comic book moments in Aquaman are just amazing.
Do you think
I can't wait to see it again.
Do you think it's going to be a hit?
I think it is. And it's such a crowded time that it's opening. Yeah. It's so hard to call. And I think it's going to be between Aquaman and Bumblebee, because I think audiences, during the Christmas time, what happens is people go as families or like as groups, right? You have to appease a group. I mean, I'm sure you've been to the movies with groups before, unless you've agreed upon a movie that you're going to see first. If you're showing up to the theater and deciding then and there, I think a lot of people will gravitate towards Bumblebee because it's kind of the catch-all crowd movie. But I will say this. I think the hype level is building. I think that the reactions for Aquaman are going to help build it. And we'll see. Again, I'm super pumped to see it again. In fact, Dashel, come here. You're gonna be on the podcast. Because I want to get your opinion.
Why?
Come here. You've seen Aquaman. You're like you're probably like the only 9-year-old kid that's seen Aquaman.
I know.
So tell the microphone what you thought of Aquaman.
It was amazing. The graphics, the camera work, just the whole thing.
What was your favorite part of Aquaman?
The whole thing. It's amazing.
What was your favorite scene, though? Did you have a favorite scene?
No, I just loved it.
You loved it? But what did you think of Aquaman? Did he look awesome?
Yes.
He's badass. Cool. All right, you can go back to your video games. There you have it. The 9-year-old has spoken.
It's funny. I'm reading. There's a tracking thing that I go to, and they're saying that Bumblebee, actually, they're thinking Bumblebee is going to be a flop.
It could be. Listen,
I think it's going to depend on how good the movie is, though, probably.
Yeah, and if it's really just like an Iron Giant remake, and if it's, I don't know. I like Travis Knight. I think he's a unique director to have on the film. But I will say this: when we saw Creed 2, they played the Aquaman trailer, and I heard people in the audience saying, "Oh, I'm definitely seeing that."
Yeah.
So I feel like there's, I don't know, man. I'm hoping that Aquaman pulls it out and just takes the fucking win, just fucking snakes it. Because
I feel like the big competition for Aquaman is going to be Mary Poppins Returns, to be honest.
Shut the fuck up. Nobody's going to see that movie.
What's interesting though is that, did you hear that Julie Andrews is doing a voice role in Aquaman? It's like a little fuck you. Does. It's a little fuck you to Mary Poppins Returns. I think.
I know who she plays, but I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
It's not a person though. It's a creature. I just spoiled it. Hey, Dash, come here. I need you one more time.
Dad, leave me alone.
Come here. Tell us how excited you are for Mary Poppins Returns.
A little.
Oh, you are excited.
Said a little. All right.
Get the fuck out of here. Go back to your video games.
So you're going to see Mary Poppins?
I'm not seeing that. Your mom can take you to that shit.
Sherry Bobbins.
Oh, now you don't want to see it. Okay.
I don't care for seeing it.
I can live my whole life without ever seeing that movie.
I doubt it's actually going to make any money.
Dash is a box office expert.
So cynical already.
So anyways, my Aquaman, I'll do a little tweet storm on Monday when the embargo lifts, and I'll have this up too, so you guys can get kind of a broad feeling. The people that we saw with, I talked to a bunch of people. We were leaving, and I felt like, or after, well, it's not really a party. It's like a mingle. Everybody that, every like big site was there and saw the movie, and I felt like everybody really enjoyed it.
Yeah, let's see when they run the reviews though, because I've felt that way about a million movies that I've seen with people, and then they actually enjoyed it while they were watching it. But then they got home and they thought of it like, oh no, I can't give it a good review because the consensus is that it's not good. So got to toe the line.
Yeah, see, I know, and here's the thing: I fucking hate scores. I don't like giving a score to a movie. And then I have to toil over it because I know people get so wrapped up in it, and I fucking hate that. So, well, who gives a fuck?
I also saw a highly anticipated movie this week.
I can't wait to see the box office numbers for that one.
Oh, they're already kind of out and it's tanking. I mean, I saw it in an empty theater, Robin Hood. The theater was legitimately empty. This wasn't a press screening on
either,
my phone
right?
the whole time. Yeah, I bought a ticket. I was texting on my phone the whole time because there was nobody in the theater. I was taking notes.
You were watching a movie like you would normally watch it at home.
Yeah, I was taking notes on my phone, and it was oh man, yeah, okay. So I had no interest in seeing Robin Hood, the reboot. Circumstances forced me to check it out. There was no press screening. There was actually a press screening, but it was at the same time as Creed 2, and it was like in like the South Shore, which is really far. So anyway, I did anyway end up going to see it, and I bought a ticket to see it. And yeah, I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, it's exactly what the trailers make it look like. It's a complete and utter disaster, and it's just a stupid reboot that shouldn't even exist. It's not Robin Hood. There's nothing particularly Robin Hood about it because he wears a mask. Robin Hood never wore a mask and leather, and it's such a ripoff of so many other better movies. The whole storyline is pretty much lifted. I said from the Mark of Zorro, but then somebody corrected me and said that the Mark of Zorro was actually lifted from the Scarlet Pimpernel. So I guess technically, but it's that whole plot where he's posing as an aristocrat to curry favor with the Sheriff of Nottingham and infiltrate and whatever. It's just stupid. It really is. It's a dumb movie, and they tried to play with the period setting, I guess, because the director probably wanted to be like Baz Luhrmann, but it doesn't work at all. Because at some moments they're wearing kind of period attire, and then the next scene they're wearing like long sleeve tees and working out. It's just a mess. It's an absolute mess. But one of the biggest problems that I had with the movie is how much of a ripoff it is of The Dark Knight, and it is unbelievable. I mean, to the point that they should seriously consider suing. Hans Zimmer should, at least. First of all, there's a character in Robin Hood whose entire arc is directly lifted from Two-Face, from Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, directly right down to the physical scars, lifted from Two-Face. And it's unbelievable how.
Well, who does he become in Robin Hood lore, or is it just some new?
In Robin Hood, basically, well, I guess I'll spoil it because nobody's gonna watch it anyway.
Who gives a fuck? Well, spoilers for Robin Hood if you give a shit. Here we go.
So what happens is the whole movie is basically Robin Hood has come back to Nottingham, where he's from fighting the Crusades. And the sheriff is a warmonger and stuff like that. But Marion now has married Will Scarlet. Will Scarlet is played by Jamie Dornan. Why they called him Will Scarlet, I have no idea, because he has no relationship to Robin Hood whatsoever. But basically, Will Scarlet is Harvey Dent. Okay?
But isn't Will Scarlet his Robin Hood's brother?
Yeah, but in this they're not. Anyway, okay. So he's basically Harvey Dent. He's like the voice of the people, and he's kind of halfway in with the sheriff, halfway out with the sheriff, and he's everybody likes him, and he's the voice of the people, and he's kind of this heroic character. But Maid Marian is in love with Robin Hood. Robin Hood's pretty much like Maggie Gyllenhaal's character Rachel was with Robin Hood. So what happens is at the end of the movie, there's the big fight and the big attack, and Marian ends up hooking up with Robin Hood in the middle of a battle, which is so weird. They're like making out in the middle of a battle with explosions going off all around them.
As like Jurassic World.
Yeah.
That forced thing between Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard when they kiss, and I'm just like, it's the most unearned moment ever.
Will Scarlet sees it, and he accidentally falls, gets knocked unconscious, and falls into like a boiling thing of water of oil or something like that, and it rips off basically half his face, right? And then the sheriff of Nottingham gets killed at the end of the movie and whatever, and then at the end of the movie, basically Will is now the new sheriff of Nottingham, and he's evil, and they're setting it up for the sequels. And he drives Robin Hood and Marion out of Nottingham into Sherwood Forest, and now he's going to be the sheriff of Nottingham in any sequel that will never ever happen. And it's just, but the ripoff of Two-Face is so blatant. But then also, one of the worst things about it, though, how it rips off The Dark Knight, is that how you can tell in movies, how in movies before a score is written, they'll do a temp track, and it's always music from other movies.
Yeah.
To kind of get the tempo. So clearly, the temp track in this
Dark Knight
was Why So Serious, right? But they took it so far, I guess, when they were doing it, because it looks like they cut and choreographed the entire final action sequence to that song, to that track, because it's cut exactly to it. And Joseph Trapanese, who I think is a really good composer, does a cue that is so much like Why So Serious that it's like a sound alike from a library. And to the point that instead of the da-da, da-da, you know what I'm talking about? Like you even have that being imitated just with a different instrument. And it's so blatant a ripoff. And it's so clear that they choreographed this exactly to that song that you have to wonder, why anybody could ever think that anybody wouldn't be fooled by that. Like, what, you've never seen The Dark Knight, so you're gonna not realize that how much they're ripping it off, and even story beats and stuff. It's terrible. They tried to turn Robin Hood also into like a Batman type character. Taron Egerton, who I really like in the Kingsman movies, and even Eddie the Eagle, really they do him no favors in this movie because he comes off as so boyish and non-assuming next to Jamie Foxx and Ben Mendelsohn that you wonder how he ever became a star, because he's so generic in the film and he's so horribly miscast. Jamie Foxx is kind of okay in the movie because at least he has some kind of charisma about him. The only person that kind of makes the movie worth watching is Ben Mendelsohn as the sheriff of Nottingham. But even that is so weird how they do him, because there's a scene in the movie where he's basically talking about having been raped as a child by priests. Okay.
Oh God.
And then right before Robin Hood kills him, though, Robin Hood has like a one-liner where it's like basically he doesn't say like, too bad there aren't any priests, or you're gonna get raped again by this. He basically says that to him, like it was something like he said that when he was a child and on Altar Boy, they used to pour wine down his throat or something like that before they would try to rape him or something like that. And then right before Robin Hood kills him, he says something like, too bad there's no wine or something like that. Like, it's like a weird, like, one-liner where he's like making fun of him for having been raped. Like, it's so fucking stupid. Like, why would anybody think that was, how did this ever pass muster? Like, how did anybody ever think that this movie was in any way acceptable? And the action is so bad because they start shooting arrows like they're machine guns. There's a horse-drawn carriage chase that basically they turn it into a car chase. So you have like horses like rounding corners like a car would. Like it's ridiculous. And you made a Robin Hood movie where there are no swords. Nobody uses a sword and there's no sword fight. How can you make a Robin Hood movie with no sword fight?
There's no swords at all?
No sword fight.
But I mean, the whole look of the film is perplexing because it looks like it's trying to be modern, but not modern. And it's almost like a Game of Thrones-ish kind of thing.
Yes, it is a Game of Thrones type thing. But the thing is, Game of Thrones is not set in the real world. This is set in the real world because it's at the time of the Crusades. And it's just, and Game of Thrones also has some real creativity behind it. And this
Game of Thrones is fucking amazing. So
this is just people, ooh, Game of Thrones, let's try to rip this off. And ooh, let's try to rip this off. But it's just another one of those, why did they do a reboot of this movie? Why does it have to exist? And why call it Robin Hood? Why not call it something else? Like, it makes no sense. And these kind of let's make a reboot, but hip and edgy has become such a cliche that you have to wonder when studios are finally gonna, wise up to the fact that people aren't interested. And I was reading they're doing another one for Robin Hood, like an HBO show where Robin Hood is like a woman and a stockbroker or something like that, like a modern day version. Like, leave it alone. Just let Robin Hood fucking die. Just let it die. Let it die.
There needs to be like a moratorium on fucking Robin Hood. Like, there needs to be some kind of like official like, you cannot make Robin Hood for 5 more fucking years, because we also had the Ridley Scott version, which tanked. I actually enjoyed that one.
It was okay. It was okay.
I think it's better than okay in that Ridley Scott way. But I also understand why it wasn't a hit. I get it. Like, I wouldn't sit here and be like, it should have been a massive hit. No,
well, I wish they had done the original script, Nottingham, which was basically
that would have been cool. Which would have been have them. Yeah, but I mean, you go back, it's got Oscar Isaac, and I think it's one of those movies you go back. Oh, actually, it's pretty good. I think a second look.
They're never really bad. Ridley Scott movies are never really bad, but it was miscast too. I mean, Russell Crowe was way too old to be playing Robin Hood at 45. And I love Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I think that's like the quintessential Robin Hood movie. Well, I love the Errol Flynn version as well, but I love Prince of Thieves.
I think Prince of Thieves captures everything about Robin Hood that makes it cool.
One of the best scores.
Great score, great actors. I mean, come on. Alan Rickman as the sheriff. Kevin Costner was great as Robin Hood.
Loxley, I'll cut your heart out with a spoon.
Why a spoon, cousin?
Because it's
dull, you twit. It'll hurt more. I love it. It's so good. It's like the best fucking Robin Hood movie. And I feel like if you're not going to attempt to best that film, don't fucking make it.
Oh, and then Jamie Foxx's character is such a ripoff of Azim in Prince of Thieves. Like, the same basic premise. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, that's right. We got Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's awesome in that movie. There's just so much
Azim is great.
Prince of Thieves that I don't see how you could top it. It is the best of the Robin Hood films, in my opinion. If you want to go super old school, you can check out the
It means great one.
Why are you painted?
Yeah, I love that. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just great. Like, I fucking love that movie, and I just don't understand why Hollywood keeps trying to go back to that well. Like, what is it?
Leave it alone.
What the fuck got this Robin Hood movie greenlit?
Well, for a while, I was really sick of Three Musketeers reboots as well, too. Like, there was D'Artagnan. You remember that? That was terrible. And then there was the Paul W.S. Anderson version.
Yeah,
the Musketeer. That was D'Artagnan. But then there was the terrible Paul W.S. Anderson one.
Yep. They're a bunch of bullshit. I don't understand why. It's like you get filmmakers that grew up with these movies, like they're at that age now, which is kind of like mid to late 40s, early 50s, and they're like, I want to make this movie that inspired me as a kid and do that. And it's like, I get that, but it's like it's skipped a generation, man. It's too late.
Yeah.
And you're wasting fucking money making garbage. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why Hollywood goes back to that well. Like, why Robin Hood? What is it about the Robin Hood IP? Did they not see the numbers for Ridley Scott's? I mean, it's Ridley Scott and Russell fucking Crowe, and it failed. Last time they fucking won Oscars.
Yeah.
For Gladiator. And it's like, if it doesn't work, why do you think Taron Egerton and Jamie Foxx are going to bring home the box office?
Otto Bathurst. Like, I mean, does anybody know who this is? Oh God.
Like, this is like a perfect one for the How Did This Get Made podcast.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster. And Leonardo DiCaprio produced it. Like, how did this movie ever get made? Really, that is the question. It's unbelievable. What a waste of money it is on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, over
when you
$100
think
million,
about
what a waste.
All the movies that they could have made.
Oh yeah.
All the films that could have been made, scripts that are like laying in a pile that could have been produced. And they're like, nah, we're going to do this one. And I think it goes to show you, like, I think there's this assumption a lot of times that, Hollywood knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they sure don't.
Or that the people in power that have money are going to make the best possible decision. It couldn't be more further from the truth.
Oh, it's like William Goldman always said, nobody knows anything.
They don't. And they take risks. And then there's people that are just trying to keep a job or just like don't give a fuck enough or don't have a voice enough. They're just like, okay, whatever. But nobody stands up to say, wait, are we sure this is the best possible thing to be doing?
Well, no,
like, it's like nobody stops to do that. Nobody stops to ask.
You think they would have learned their lesson though after King Arthur: Legend of the Sword did pretty much exactly the same thing though.
Yeah, and they had a King Arthur movie that tanked before that. Like,
yeah.
Stop trying to make King Arthur happen.
Yeah.
And stop trying to make it a franchise. Listen,
yeah.
Nobody wants to see a bunch of goddamn King Arthur movies. That kid in what is it? The fucking the Joe Wright movie that's coming out.
Yeah, that's disappointing too. I mean, why is he doing that? You know,
just listen, sharpen your fucking blades because I guarantee you that's gonna tank.
No, it's Joe Cornish. It's the guy who did Attack the Block. Like that's his long-awaited follow-up to Attack the Block is like a child King Arthur movie. Like
it's going to flop.
Why are we even doing this though at this point? Like leave these IPs alone. Like, do something original.
And that's the thing is like, you get so much value placed in the filmmaker. They're like, well, just let them do what they want. They made this one good movie. And it's like, yeah, but you can guide them a little bit, people. Just don't give them everything that they want.
There are about 20 Netflix movies out there to show you why directors should not be necessarily allowed to just do whatever they want, even if they are talented.
Yes. Like, honestly, and here's the thing too, like being a creative, like I'm a creative person. Like sometimes it's nice to get outside opinions to kind of put you to realign your perspective because you get so lost in what you're doing and you're no longer really functioning on a way that can be critical of yourself. And you kind of need that. You need somebody to kind of like, well, why are you doing this? At least to ask the question, say, why are you doing this? Or is this the best way to do it? And sometimes that's what you need is you need somebody to kind of like break that mold for you. And it doesn't happen.
Complete creative control, I think to a degree is kind of overrated unless you're a very specific kind of filmmaker. Look, I hate to say it, but the Coen brothers, they've got a movie out on Netflix now too, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and it's clearly they've been given there's no overhead, right? They were just allowed to do whatever they wanted, and it's at times unwatchable. Like it's interesting at times. Like there are parts of it that are really good, but it's on an anthology movie, and it drags and drags and drags, and it's probably the worst thing they've done in a long time. But it's just why you kind of just can't just necessarily unleash these people. Right? If they don't have like a compelling reason to make this movie, and I was reading about it and they said, oh, it's little Western stories that we've been writing over the last 30 years and we just strung it together and decided to make a movie. Because why not? And it's just, well, that's not really a compelling movie then. It isn't. I mean, the first story is quite compelling, but then after that, there's not much to it. Like it's about 5 stories. 1 or 2 of them are pretty interesting, but the rest of them are just kind of meh, just there. And it's the least engaging movie they've made in a long time, probably since their Lady Killers remake.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the Coen brothers, I mean, these are 2 fucking amazing filmmakers, right? Like these guys are really great and really consistent, but it's not a great movie. I mean, I think it's very, but then again, play devil's advocate, Alphonse Cuarón has been given, complete creative control over Roma, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, but I think if your vision is strong, then it works.
But it's also a movie that he's been trying to make for a long time, and and he's probably workshopped it, and it's also based on his life, so it's kind of something that he's really tied to. But Ballad of Buster Scruggs, it just feels like they were like, we had this money, so why not? Why not do it? And
well, I think there's a difference. I think there's full creative control. I think when you're making something that's a passion project and you're just trying to get it made and it's not about money, I think that's when they come across. That's when masterpieces are made.
But
and I think that once,
but then you get Mute, or then you get Hold the Dark. And these are movies that also they could have potentially been compelling movies, but you needed somebody who wasn't as close to the material to have a pass at it as well.
Well, I still think it can go both ways, though. Yes. I think that there's great work out there. Like I think about, and this is for the comics medium, but like James O'Barr did The Crow. He did it over years and years till he finally finished it. I just think it's a masterpiece. I think it's just a beautiful piece of body of work, and it's all him. It's his complete story, his complete everything. But I think there's plenty of other films out there too, where it's like, somebody had a singular vision and they executed it. But the other thing too is, with every movie, it's always a committee. It's more than one person making that film. You know, you have like the money men, you have the actors, you have all that stuff that comes together. It's a collaborative art form. So I think what baffles me about things like Robin Hood is that everybody's a part of this, and I'm just kind of like, how do they get everybody on board to give a shit about this movie, or to not say, why are we making this? Why don't we make something else?
Yeah, $100 million.
Like, what a waste, dude! A waste.
It's a terrible film. It really is. It's unbelievably bad.
So yeah, we can.
Like, I was offended watching it. Like, it's offensively bad because there's that much waste on screen. And that was what really pissed me off. It's just waste, pure waste.
It is too bad. So I think we should probably wrap it up there because we're going a little long here, and I know we were gonna talk at length about other remakes, reboots, but we're getting close to the 2-hour mark here.
Yeah.
So we can put a pin in that if we want to discuss it some more later, but I feel like we could probably discuss at length. I wrote down some movies prior to getting started that were also terrible, like just terrible remakes, and a lot of them just felt like experiments, like Psycho. Somebody had said I saw a list where somebody put Man of Steel on there as like a terrible reboot, and I was like, go fuck yourself, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, we talked about one of the worst, The Mummy.
God, that's so
terrible. Or
Dracula. We talked about RoboCop and Total Recall last week, so I think we kind of covered the
Dracula. What is it? Dracula Unborn or whatever it is? Or
yeah.
I mean, all those Universal ones.
Oh, damn, Universal really doesn't know what they have with those characters. They don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with that shit, man. It's kind of hilarious, really, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it's over the Dark Universe. I think that experiment is done.
Dude, Dark Universe could have been hella great.
Sure.
And they hired the right filmmaker.
Yeah. Like, it should have been a lot more modest than they shouldn't have been like $150 million movies. You know, you should have made smaller, darker.
Totally agree. They were trying to make a Marvel thing. That's because Universal doesn't have anything like that.
It's really dumb.
So they essentially were trying to make a Marvel thing when they should have been like, no, let's make our own kind of horror universe that ties together, but not like the event. Like, everybody's trying to make the goddamn Avengers. Stop it.
I mean, they should have learned from how those movies were successful in the first place in the 30s and 40s.
And hired somebody that was passionate about. There's tons of filmmakers that love those films, like Guillermo del Toro. All these, like, dude, how do you not hire Guillermo del Toro to spearhead the Dark Universe? Like, how does that not happen?
A Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie would be amazing.
Like, these are people that have studied, are passionate about these films, about what made them special to begin with.
Yeah,
and there we go. No. So crazy. So let's take we'll take a few questions here. I'm going to take a look at what we got. It doesn't look like we got a lot here. Let me see what we got here. So the Dire Wolf of Winterfell. Nice name. Which Dire Wolf, though?
The one who
if you had a time machine, what movie set would you visit and why? That's a great question, actually.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Man.
Oh, what movie set would I have visited? I mean,
honestly, it would have to be Die Hard, which is my all-time favorite movie. Like, I would love to be there to see them make it. I would love to just see John McTiernan work in his prime, making such a great movie. I would love to just see him and talk to him there. Honestly, like, if McTiernan was making a movie, I swear to God, I would drop everything and I would go fucking shadow him just to watch his process, because I fucking love his work that much. Minus Rollerball. I would just love to see his process and what goes into that. And it'd be fun to be on that Die Hard set and be like, man, you guys have no idea how much this is going to change your lives and the industry as a whole.
Oh, you know which one it would be for me? I think it would probably be Boogie Nights. But you know why? Because I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. But I've always felt that Burt Reynolds fucked himself so badly because of the way that he behaved on the set and his reaction afterwards and stuff. I wish I could go back and just say, Bert, you don't understand. This is great. This is one of the best performances you've ever given. It's going to revitalize your career. Shut your fucking mouth. He could have been in Magnolia. He could have had Philip Baker Hall's part in Magnolia. He would have won an Oscar. Idiot. Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
I kind of,
I
if
don't think I
that's,
would go
that's,
back
I
to-
always see, I want to go to these sets and just save these people from themselves. So many of these actors and directors that just self-destructed over the years. You just want to go back and save them. Just say, no, 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 don't do this.
Stop, 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 stop. You would go back to the Robin Hood 2018 set. Guys, stop what you're doing. You'd be like Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop 2. I'm Axel Foley, Beverly Hills building inspector. Stop what you're doing. You put the bucket down.
Yeah, I just stopped these movies
You're
being
making
made.
a terrible movie. Please put the cameras down. Turn off the lights.
Yeah,
y'all
no, we're done here.
Everybody go home.
We're done here. We're done here. Forget it.
That's what we need. Axel Foley, film production inspector, to just show up and cancel movies that are being made. They're terrible. I miss Axel Foley.
I do too.
He's so
but
awesome.
you know, though, Eddie Murphy though is doing a movie that looks really cool now. I'm Facebook friends with
I know.
Larry, whatever his name is, Kraszewski or something. He's the guy, one of the guys who wrote People versus Larry Flint and People versus OJ. Yeah. Anyway, I'm Facebook buddies with him, and he's been posting images from the set of My Name Is Dolomite, the Rudy Ray Moore biopic, and it's Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore. That movie is going to be awesome. It's going to be hard, R-rated, and funny. It's going to be good.
I love Eddie Murphy, man. Like, I miss him.
Too, man.
Every time I watch an old Eddie Murphy movie, I'm like, man,
he's
where's
so talented.
Eddie?
So good.
He's great. Yeah, he's made a lot of turkeys, but you know, whatever.
There's always like a glimmer though of Eddie though in these movies though, where just
but he'll do stuff. He'll do stuff like he did Life with Martin Lawrence. Like he'll do like these movies. You're like, oh shit, he's still great.
Yeah, Bowfinger. He was really funny. Bowfinger.
Yeah, he's funny in Bowfinger. And then like Nutty Professor was like, that came out of nowhere. That was a hit for him. It's like, oh shit, Eddie's back. He always does that. He kind of like, he'll make something, then he goes away, he makes a bunch of crap, and he comes back. But my thing is, I'll always welcome Eddie back. He's a true talent.
Me too. I hope he comes back big time.
Yeah. Jerome Valeska wants to know if he should quit his day job to make films or no.
Nope.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to quit your day job to make films anymore. So, all the footage that I've been shooting for my junket stuff, because I've been doing kind of these like Entertainment Tonight interview pieces, just because they're a little more interesting than just a standard sit down, edited piece. Maybe some people prefer that, but I'm trying to do something a little different. All the footage that I've shot on these in 4K is with my iPhone.
Yeah.
And I transfer that footage and I edit it together. And I guarantee you don't know that that's on my iPhone.
Yeah, you really don't need to buy a lot of expensive equipment.
The tools that you have at your disposal, let me tell you, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and wanted to make films, I simply did not have it. The only way that you could have made movies was like with a camcorder, with fucking VHS, or it just didn't exist. This generation, anybody that's listening to this, you want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, you can't.
Every fucking thing is at your fingertips. Steven Soderbergh shot a movie on an iPhone.
Yeah, insane. I mean, to me, that was a game changer too, and you can't really tell. It was ready
out of excuses.
Yeah, it was ready for a major mainstream release, and it's just there are a lot of things that are being shot that way now, and Tangerine was another one that was shot on iPhone, and it was a super low budget movie, and it was just, it was drag queens wanted to make a movie about like a transsexual actors and stuff like that. They wanted to do a movie, that was gonna showcase them, and they did, and they made a movie that was really good, and it was really well received. There are really no excuses anymore. It's like you can make this movie if you want. You could do it. It's possible. Do it.
Just go.
Yeah.
James, they had a thing. Aquaman tweeted out this thing where James Wan was talking to kids that said they wanted to be directors, and James was like, "Just go make movies." Like he's like, the equipment is there, and it's the same thing. Like there is no better or easier time to become a filmmaper than now.
It's funny
the trick is just doing it.
It's well, and that's another thing though. I mean, I often have that. People will kind of ask me, for my advice or something like that. And whenever I'm honest with them, they kind of tend to get this dejected look on their face, right? Because like I've had a lot of people ask me, "Oh, how do I become a film critic?" or something like that. And I tell them, I'm like, well, the thing is, you could easily become a film critic, but it's just whether or not you can actually support yourself doing it is pretty tough. And quite frankly, I don't. You know, I have jobs. I just celebrated 15 years at the radio job that I've been at for a long time. And it's just, that's the reality of the business. And I feel like whenever I tell people that, they get really dejected because they've got this idea of themselves, you know, going from junket to junket and having this life where you can just make a living off of reviewing films. And maybe that was true 30 years ago, but it's not true now. You know, it's
no, because there's so many people, and it depends on who you work too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you work for,
where you're located as well, you know, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disclose my income, but like, I'm scraping by.
Sure.
Like, I don't make a lot of money. I don't. And the truth is, like, I get money from the VA for my disability, and if I didn't get that, I couldn't do this job.
Be able to do it. Yeah, sure.
No, I couldn't. I have to have that additional income. There's no possible way.
Yeah.
So to think that, you know, for anybody, it's really comes down to your passion. It comes down to how you want to live. Yeah. If you're very comfortable in your life and that you have all these things and, you know, financially you don't feel like you could take those kinds of risks, then you're kind of stuck there. But
you could still do it though. But you could still do it. That's the thing. Yeah.
But you just have to accept and understand that it isn't a lifestyle change to the point where like, oh, it's going to be glamorous. I'm going to have so much money and all this other stuff. And bottom line, you can't do it for the money.
I feel also like I see a lot of people on Facebook too, that they're like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker. All I want to do is direct films. Why won't somebody give me the money to direct a movie? And it's like, well, but what have you done though? That's the thing. You have to kind of start with nothing and try to make something out of nothing. And then if you can make something out of nothing, then next time maybe you'll get a little something. And then, you know, it's kind of, you have to really kind of go up incrementally. Like the fact that nobody's just going to pluck you out of nowhere and say, here's $100 million, go make a Marvel movie. Just doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not reality.
And, you know, I've been writing about movies since my high school days. Like I was reading Entertainment Weekly.
Oh, me too. Yeah, me too.
And I read all these guides because we didn't have IMDb. I didn't even have the fucking internet. Yeah. So I would buy these book guides and I educated myself. I would watch every fucking movie that I could. And I would write about movies. I would write my own reviews. Me too. And I kept this book. I actually had a book. I think I talked about this before. I had this book that I would cut pictures out of, like of entertainment magazines, like Entertainment Weekly, When In Touch, or not In Touch. One of the other fucking magazines that's now like a gossip mag. Used to be a legit movie mag, and like Movie Line and Premiere and things like that. I would cut the pictures out and I would glue them into my book. And I would make movie pages for certain, you know, for movies that I was excited about, and I would like write about them, and I put pictures and I put my grades and stuff in there after I watched them. But I was passionate about it. I loved it. I fucking loved it. And before I worked for JoBlo, I had numerous blog sites where I would post reviews.
You can still find online. When I got hooked up with Rotten Tomatoes, it was funny. I already had a profile with them that I didn't even know about, because in the late 90s, when kind of online reviews were in their infancy, I contributed 2 reviews to this Rec Arts Reviews Usenet group. And because of that, somebody made profiles for all of those people. And I already had a profile on Rotten Tomatoes because it was still in there as Rec Arts, you know, and it's still logged under my thing now. I have to be careful not to choose it. But it was because there are 2 reviews of mine from a Usenet group that you could still find online. And it was my review of 2 reviews that I wrote in 1998. It was my review of Lethal Weapon 4 and my review of The Mask of Zorro. And you could still find them. And I wrote them when I was 16 years old. And they're still online. You can still find them if you look them up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're not great, but whatever.
I think, you know, with anything in this industry, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Don't think that, I got to work for IGN or I'm a failure.
No.
That's just fucking stupid.
But that's also the beauty of the internet, though. That's the thing. Like
start your own website, a little blog site. It's free.
Yeah, you can do it.
It's not sexy per se, but you can actually make it look pretty good, and just be consistent. Just write. Just do it. Because when the time comes for you to like try out or to submit your name,
you have to be consistent.
You need to have something to show. I get stuff from people all the time. They're like, "Oh, hey, here's my resume. I graduated from here and this." Like, so. I'm not going to hire you because you send me a resume and like, I have a degree in journalism from here. I'm like, okay, what have you done?
If you have no seasoning, you know, and that's the thing. It's funny because I was invited to speak at my university, at my alma mater last week, right, for this media professionals thing. And it was, you know, it was for a number of reasons. Somebody found me on LinkedIn. It was because of my work at the radio station for 15 years and by freelancing with, you know, I write for these for kind of, you know, I write for realtor.ca and things like that to make money, right? And I teach as well quite a bit. And JoBlo, you know, that helped as well. And it was somebody called me in for that to give like kind of an inspiring speech to media professionals. And I was just telling them, you know, the thing is, but the reality about this industry is that you kind of have to have a lot of little fires burning all over the place. And that could add up to a comfortable living, right? Like it's fine. I get by okay. And it's, you know, and I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy every job that I do. Every job that I do, I really like, you know, and it's not like any of them I resent. I don't resent it because I feel lucky to be doing all of them. Yeah. But I tried telling people that, like, it's not necessarily the life that you want. It's not necessarily, nobody's going to hand you anything. And one of the big keys for me, the reason I was able to get hired at the radio station and the reason I was able to get hired at JoBlo is because by the time those opportunities came, I already had a body of work because I had been doing it on my own, you know, and it was when I was doing my journalism degree, you know, I always viewed the coursework as secondary. So instead of just doing coursework, I was out there interning at community stations and writing articles for the campus newspaper. So I had a huge book of clips when I was done, right? So I had some kind of body of work. And it was the same thing at JoBlo. You know, I was reviewing movies for a year for a couple of other smaller sites before I got hired by JoBlo. And it was one of those things. I sent him an email one night and I was like, if you ever need a critic, this is me. I've done all these. And he wrote me back randomly and he's like, well, what have you done lately? And I just sent him a bunch of reviews and he goes, oh, these aren't bad. Okay. And he gave me a crack and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's what you need, you know, have something to show.
You do.
If you don't have anything to show, and like for one thing too, like if you reach out, and I get them all the time, I get feelers all the time for people wanting, it's kind of funny. Sometimes it's kind of brazen. Like people like they want a full-time position at JoBlo as a reviewer and they have no reviews. They have nothing to show. I'm like, is this serious? Like, are you really so like out of touch that you think you would be hired as a reviewer for like a well-known website with nothing to show? That's just, it's like almost arrogant.
Yeah.
But it's like this day and age, you have no excuse not to create a body of work to show. Like if you want to be a reviewer, you need to be writing reviews every week.
Yep.
And post them on your own blog site. Doesn't got to be sexy, but you need to be writing. Because what happens is if you have something to show, and trust me, anybody that puts a feeler out to me, you've got maybe, I don't know, 30-second window for me to decide if I'm even look at your shit because I have work to do. And if there's a link that I can click and go right to your site and it could just be boom in your face.
Yeah.
I could just take a look and see what you're selling. I'll take a look. And if it's actually good, then I may stick around for a little while longer. And if it is something that's really worthwhile, then the name sticks with me. And, you know, if there's an opportunity or an opening or something, then maybe something will happen, or at least you'll hear back from me. And then I know who you are. And then if you email me again, when like stuff comes up, blah, 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 blah. That's how it works.
Yeah, it does.
But you just have to stay at it.
Sure.
I've never hired somebody off a fucking cold email.
No. Well, it's funny. I did get hired off of a cold email because I emailed JoBlo, but it was one of those things I never expected a job out of it. It was just, I said, hey, I hear that you're from the West Island. I'm from the West Island too. If ever you need somebody, just consider me. But here's what I've done. And here are my references, like people that he knew.
Had something to show though.
And he never wrote me back. And it was, but then like 8 months later, he randomly got back to me because I guess it stuck in his head. And he was just like, oh, okay. And that was great. That's how it happened. And that was it. But I had something to show. So he knew when he sent me out to do an assignment, it was to cover The Martian Child. You know, he knew when he sent me out that I would send him back a review that was usable, that they could run. You know,
it's important. It is important.
And they were able to.
Burge is kind of notorious like that too. Like he won't answer emails for a long time sometimes, but he does get them. He'll get them, and then it'll kind of come. Like sometimes I'll get an email come back from him like, "Holy shit, I sent this like forever ago," you know. And it's like, okay, just what I need to do.
Saw it, and he remembered it, and he will get back, and he will address it. Just might take some time.
Yeah. So,
but it's good, you know, God bless
anyways, no matter what you want to do, whether it's film or anything, you just need to invest yourself in it. Yeah. That's it. You can do it. You can make a living off of it. Just invest yourself, never quit. There's like simple principles in life. And I don't understand. Like sometimes I get frustrated with the question, like, what should I do? It's like, Why do you have to ask the question? Just do it if you want to do it. It's that simple. There is no brand new advice that's going to pop up about anything in life that's going to be any different. It's the same advice that you should always be following throughout your life. There's no new advice that's going to ever come. Everything that's been done has been done. Every sexual position's been done.
It's the eye of the tiger. It's the feel of the fight rising up through the boo boo.
I would have been impressed if you would have gotten all of it.
Alrighty.
That's a good song. That's a good song to take us out.
Shall we call it a day?
Yes.
No. Wait, before you do it though, if you're gonna start Eye of the Tiger, hey, aren't you gonna ring the bell?
Ding ding.
It's the Eye of the Tiger. So good.
Oh shit. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I think this is going to go up on YouTube this week. So if you're listening to it on YouTube, welcome. Please share. Please subscribe. Do all those things that they want you to do for social. It'd be nice. Tell all your friends and neighbors. And yeah, welcome aboard. For all the regulars, sup, y'all.
Yeah.
Appreciate you listening.
OG
so we will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. Peace out.